left wing, the Lions have won a Test series for the first time since 2013 after their dramatic victory over Australia on Saturday. Hugo Keenan was the hero, popping up in the last minute with a dramatic try, but there was plenty of controversy about all the events that preceded it, and we'll get into all that tonight on the podcast. I'm Will Slattery, delighted to be joined for the first time in a long time in studio by Luke Fitzgerald. Luke, how are you?
Yeah, it's been a while, isn't it? It's great to be back in, yeah.
Shane mentioned our producer, so you didn't bring your Lions cap in. That would have been a nice little accessory. You know?
I think I said, I don't know where that is. I must find that. Yeah, no, it's good. It's nice to be in for before Test 3. I think good to be in studio after Test 2, which there's loads of massive talking points. I think so.
Absolute belter.
Yeah, happy to be here. Yeah.
Delighted to have Jonathan Bradley with us as well. Jonathan, how are you?
Yep, I'm good. I'm not in Dublin, obviously, but still excited to chat Test 2, Test 3.
Here in spirit.
Yeah, here in spirit. Now, one day we must get you up and we can all be in the same room. That'd be nice. It was actually nice bumping into you at the Aviva before the Argentina game as well.
He does exist in the flesh.
Yeah, he does. He does.
Not some AI version. Yeah.
Luke, Lions 29, Australia 26. Mm-hmm. The Test series secured 2-0 in the series, but what a game we had. It really reminded me of the Test you played in 2009, not in terms of the physicality, but just in terms of the ebbs and flows, the momentum shifts. You know, one team streaking out ahead, one team pegging them back and pipping them at the end. And just one of those games that I really do think we're going to be looking back on years to come and being like, oh, that second Test in Australia was a real belter. Am I over-egging it? It really felt like a brilliant contest, and one with so many kind of dramatic moments that I do think we'll be talking about for a while.
I thought it was a classic.
Yeah.
Absolute classic, yeah. And look, it's by far a vintage Australian team, but I think just the manner of the defeat in the first Test, I thought the guys they brought back in really changed the complexion of the team, which is, I think we kind of suspected that. Probably didn't think it was going to have as big an impact, but yeah, I thought it was a brilliant Test match, and really hard fought. I was actually, part of me was very disappointed we don't get a kind of third Test. I felt like a bit weird. I was kind of like, I was around other people watching the first half, and like people I didn't know, and I kind of was. I was in Riverview in David Lloyd. I was in because my kids were in doing a thing. And
the old haunt back in the day.
Well, where the old office exactly. Yeah, so I was in there, and I kind of cheered for a few Aussie tries, like just because I really wanted them to win.
Yeah,
I did want them to. I know it sounds terrible. Obviously, I wanted Lions win, but a part of me really wanted it to go down to a third Test match, and I was really pleased with how they played. I was really pleased for Joe Schmidt. I think they'll be really disappointed with how they kind of relinquished that kind of big lead. And I think that bit before half time, I thought they really kind of fell apart. Just for like they were lucky to get off the pitch at that stage. I thought before half time, but kind of calmed things down, regathered themselves the first bit of the second half. It wasn't like the Lions were on top, but it wasn't a complete collapse, which I thought towards the end of the first half. Those like. I'd say the Lions didn't want that to end. So, yeah, look, we'll obviously get into some of the kind of finer details. I'm sure one major talking point will come up quite a bit. But, yeah, I think it was a brilliant Test match. And I'm hoping that it's going to re-engage the Aussie audience down there. It's really important that Australia are a force. They've always been a force. They're brilliant sports people down there. They're I actually kind of equate them to like a bigger version of us in Ireland. I always think we're kind of brilliant at sport. And if you think about Gaelic games, I think about Gaelic games, I always think we really punch above our athlete. Like you wouldn't say we have any outstanding, I suppose Adeleke maybe, but like just athletes. We don't always produce unbelievable athletes, but in terms of sports people, I think we're really good at sports. Really good. Think about the football players over the years, and most of our best athletes you never actually see playing a real international sport. They play the local games. So I think the Aussies are a bit similar to us in that respect. Super competitive. They probably have a few better athletes than us, generally speaking, but I think they've got a bigger population to pick from. So we want them to be strong. I thought that was a good bit of resurgence. I'm hoping Les Kiss can kind of take this team on beyond into the future, into the World Cup, and to not have kind of what happened at the last World Cup happen again. I think re-engaging the audience was I hope one of the big things we got out of that in Australia.
Yeah, Jonathan, what's your kind of view on how everything unfolded and what we kind of watched? Like, I've seen a few people mention that the Lions, was it really a classic when the Lions were playing a team ranked where they're ranked and they have so much more stronger on paper? But for me, like, Australia brought such a good performance, it's irrelevant where they're ranked in some ways. Like, they played really, really well and had guys that hadn't played for them in a long time. It was a fairly unrecognisable team in some ways, especially when you have guys like Skelton and Valentini, who we discussed last week, but to Luke's point, played even in our best case scenario, I don't think we envisaged them having such a big impact in that first half. And it's just a shame that, I suppose, to my point last week about their fitness, they clearly weren't fit for the first test. If they could only play 40 and 47 minutes. So hold my hands up, that was complete garbage. Like, but they were absolutely electric. Like, what, how enjoyable did you find that, and what do you take away from this, the contest we got, even not even getting into the nitty gritty just yet?
I think, to the first point, I think it's interesting, this debate and the pushback around the word classic that has come up. Like, it has to be the two best teams in the world going head to head if it's going to be a classic or something. Like, a classic game should be gauged on the level of enjoyment that fans and neutrals take from it. And, like, in strictly those terms, for me, it was a classic. Like, the ebbs and flows of the game were unbelievable. The way it finished was unbelievable. And the other thing that really struck me about it was, I think it's so rare for the pre-match narratives to have such an impact on the game. We sat here a week ago and we were talking about what impact it would make to have Australia back at full strength. And it just came to bear that it made such a massive difference having those two guys fit. We talked about Joe Schmidt playing the same opposition 2 weeks in a row and what impact that would have, how he would tweak his game plan, what different things he would bring. And you could see that even in addition to, I suppose, the extra personnel they had, I thought it was a better game plan as well that they used. I thought it was classic Joe Schmidt in the way that he adapted week 1 to week 2. Almost reminded me of, not against the same opposition admittedly, but it almost reminded me of 2013 going from Australia into New Zealand, and you could see that he'd sort of thrown so much into this second test. And third, obviously, like you said that you were talking garbage earlier, Will, but you had flagged very early on that strange things happen whenever Andrea Piardi's refereeing. And that was the first thing that popped into my head whenever he was stood looking up at the big screen. I was like, well, we'll call that one anyway.
Oh, yeah, at least stopped clock is right every so often, isn't it? Luke, the first 30 minutes was just, even though we thought Australia would be better, we thought Skelton could be impactful with Valentini. No one thought it'd be 23-5 and the line's kind of taking on water everywhere. Like, what stood out to you in that opening period when Australia were pummeling them, like 3 tries to nil at that stage of the game? Or sorry, Sheen got that one in that period as well. So 3 tries to 1, and they looked well on top. What was kind of jumping out to you around then?
I thought it was the collisions and the breakdown. Quite simply, Australia won a few in the tight exchanges. And once they did that and they got a bit of go for it there, the Lions kind of had to condense it a little bit. And then I thought they kind of switched it up quite well with some nice ball playing. Like, one of the things about Skelton is that he does draw people onto him and he's still able to get gain line even if it's 2 guys. But if it's 3 guys kind of on him and it's very condensed, he can throw the one at the back. And I thought that was the major difference, is that they were able to get some pay. And I did think their accuracy with ball in hand was really, really good. So that's another part of Joe Schmidt's kind of repertoire that people don't. I think they always talk about maybe the rucking, they talk about the set plays. But he was so good on the kind of decision-making side and having a good plan around that. And all his drills, I could see all the drills. He was pre-contact passing, which is what really breaks teams down. You get like lots of people talking, in my opinion, just my opinion, complete garbage about offloads. Offloads, you get them when you dominate contact, but the real brilliant play and how you really split a defence is in pre-contact work. And their ball handling, you think about, if you think back in the game, Will, particularly in that first half, think about how many times Australia found space in the wide channels or in the tight exchanges with a little pop or with some beautiful handling under pressure with a tackler right in their face that got the ball away with a good pass to another Australian guy. And when you couple that with the momentum going forward, the Lions kind of on the back foot a little bit, they weren't able to get off the line as effectively or as cohesively, and some good depth. They really held their depth very well. I thought the Australian guys, as well as delivering on the skills, the ball handling. So all those kind of factors, I think, really played a big role in it, Will. And I thought that's why they were able to expose the Lions, and it's why they were able to get points on the scoreboard. Now, I still think the Lions would be a little bit disappointed with that first period of the game. I think they were a little bit passive. I think one of the things I always talk about when you're playing Skelton is that you need to recognise against some freaky players that you come against, just freaky kind of physical athletes, you're probably not going to win the contact zone. But the contact zone has to occur a yard before where you would normally happen with a normal player. And that's something that I think maybe the Lions weren't as prepared for. That kind of, and it was kind of that 1-2 punch between himself and Valentini. And I thought that was really, really effective for Australia.
Skelton, to be fair, like we've seen him play a lot of good games, mostly, you know, seeing those finals against Leinster stand out. But I thought that 40 minutes was like almost his best performance. He was so energetic. Like he carried a lot of ball. He doesn't always carry quite as much in those La Rochelle Leinster games. He's just kind of getting stuck into everything, whereas he was really punching a lot of holes as a carrier.
He had a lot of ball, Will.
He did.
He also kicked a lot better as well. I'd love to see. I'm annoyed now. I didn't look at kind of the territorial stats or anything like that. I'm assuming they were on top for a good portion of that, but they certainly kicked better than they did the week before. They were way more effective there. And they kind of pinned the Lions back at certain points. They had a few 50-22s and things like that. And they're all kind of momentum shifts. And I thought that was really the winning of the game, because it was very much like my sense was that they were. It wasn't like a turnover and a counter attack. Like they weren't soaking up pressure. They were putting the pressure on, and they were the instigator. And I was really impressed with that.
The only try that came out of it, kind of nothing, was the Suaalii break to right. Like all their other scores and penalties they even got were from consistent pressure. I mean, the Lions' discipline was quite poor. Like they were. I
was happy. Sorry, I thought that was really good refereeing, by the way, to give the yellow card after the try.
Yeah.
There was persistent infringement there, and that was a brave decision. I didn't agree with the. I thought the Sheen try was.
Save it.
Okay, I'll save it. Go on, go to Jonathan then, because I have a view on that one.
No, so do I. But I want the views there in the correct time and the correct order.
Okay, let's keep it order. Yeah.
Jonathan, what was I going to say now? Yeah, sorry. The Australian performance, first 30 minutes was so good. Like, do you put that? It can't just be Skelton and Valentini, as good as they are. Like, I saw Schmidt asked after the game, basically, like, oh, why were you so much better? And he kind of was like, well, actually, I thought we were quite good in Test 1. It was 3 tries each. And I was like, oh, Jesus. Like, obviously, he's spinning it, but like anyone who watched that game knows it was kind of light years away from how they played the first week. Like, what
I think it was interesting to hear Rog on commentary talk about Skelton as well, and talk about, you know, how selfless he is and how much better he makes everybody else around him as well. And I think you could see that, you know, in the performance of guys like Suaalii as well. But I also think the thing that Australia maybe didn't get the credit for was their own discipline. There was an awful lot of talk about the Lions' discipline in the first half, and that leading to the yellow card. But I think whenever you see a referee who is, as we know, quite hot on the breakdown, how teams have sometimes struggled with his interpretation of the breakdown. I thought the way that Australia played their breakdown so unbelievably clean, so that they couldn't get involved in that the sort of whistle fest there, was a huge reason for why they got the better of the first half as well, especially because you saw how the Lions struggled with it. But whether it was adapting to it, or whether it's just that sort of old school Joe Schmidt attention to detail at the breakdown, where you make yourself as clean as a whistle, I thought it was really impressive the way that they dealt with that in the first half too.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And like, just on Skelton, I suppose it wouldn't be the first time one player has come into a team and everyone around them has lifted their level. Like we saw with Johnny Sexton, say, for Ireland for years. It wasn't just solely how good he was. Players just seemed to play better when he was there.
Yeah, and rugby's a funny game. Like you can kind of boil quite a good portion of it down to, particularly in an attacking sense. I think a good bit of it can be boiled down to a bit of momentum, getting over the gain line. Like I think you can, like the difference it makes for your decision makers in their kicking and in their ability to pick the right pass, pick the right player, create good shape outside them. That extra half a second, the other team are not, are retreating and they're kind of not as cohesive. One or two players, and I wouldn't boil it down just to Skelton, even though he was clearly the main guy, but Valentini as well. I thought, like, they carried in that first half. But they were good carries. They were, if they didn't get over a gain line, they sucked in 2 or 3 guys, but the ball wasn't held up or anything like that. It wasn't messy ball. It was clean ball to the 9 and 10. And I thought they ran their shapes really well. I thought they made lots of good decisions. I thought they mixed it up quite well in terms of kind of using the big battering rams. But when it was on to throw the ball out the back, I thought they made those decisions quite well, and they were a threat. So I think there was lots to like. I thought Ikitau was good as well.
I was going to say, to your point about the space it gives the decision makers, like Suali and Ikitau, it's like they look so much better.
They look like different players.
They look like different players with the two lads punching so many holes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can go into the Sheen try now. We can allow it. Obviously, at this point, it's 6 points to nil to Australia. They've gotten two penalties early on. Lions first, Jack Conan almost goes over and knocks the ball on, but they go back for it.
Yeah, it was good for him. Yeah,
go back for the top penalty. Sheen taps the ball, dives over two tacklers and scores. Initial confusion on the commentary. Roger was like, that'll be ruled out, but Bigger's like, no, it's in the act of scoring, it'll be allowed, and so approved. And that's the rule. But I think everyone who watched that says that does not pass the eye test. Not that necessarily means something should be ruled out.
That's not in the act of scoring, Will, in my opinion. Like in the act of scoring, like, doesn't mean you can't hurdle over someone to get to the line. Like, I don't think that's correct. I think we end up opening up these really to me, it's in the same category as taking someone out in the air. So can you not tackle the guy then, like in the act of scoring, if he's in the air, if he jumps up? Like, where do we stop here? Like, in the act of scoring is a very different. Well, I think it's a very different thing. Now, I get what Bigger's saying, because my first shout was, surely they're not allowing this stand, because he's gone right over the guy. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's not like it's to the side, and like, but then do we have to this is what I hate about the rugby laws. Like, it's, my interpretation is kind of nearly, and the only time I can picture this situation in my head in the act of scoring is when it's kind of sideways.
A winger.
In the corner, and that's, and like, so I get Bigger's point, but like, that to me is a very literal translation of it. To my mind, if someone's in your way, you cannot jump over them. You can't do it. I thought it was definitely not a try.
Same.
Yeah.
Like, but it should have been given theoretically though.
I get Bigger's point. Like, it is like he doesn't make one other movement before he scores the try. It's one movement, but to my mind, like, he can't go.
I agree. He dives.
Can't go over someone.
Yeah, he dives from like the 5 meter line, in fact, or 3 meters out.
Yeah,
over two tacklers.
Over them. If it's to the side or if it's below, I think that's the act of scoring.
Maybe the wording is tweaked, and it's like you can't jump over it. You can jump, because a winger going into the corner, it's usually side on. You're not. It's very rare like a winger's not jumping over a defender.
Particularly if the person is stationary. So like, I could kind of see a scenario. I could envisage a scenario where a winger's diving for the corner, and I think they should be able to do that. But someone coming in under the side, like, is that technically, if they're underneath them, is that technically like, oh, he's jumping over the person?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, because Jamie Roberts had a good back and forth with Nigel Owens on Twitter, and Jamie Roberts asked the question, well, if it's illegal to jump into a tackle, but it's legal to like jump in the act of scoring, and it happens at the same time, like, which one do you penalise and which one do you allow? That's
exactly my point. Yeah. I think I would 100% err on the side that's not a try. Like, I think you can't jump over a tackle. Yeah. Like, that's not what the game is. It's like that's ruled out as something you can do. If there's a collision that has to happen, you can't go over the top of it.
It's funny because I remember it's not the same thing, but in 2017 the Lions won the test when Sonny Bill Williams got red carded because the ball was passed to Carl Sinclair and he kind of jumped towards the tackle and caught it. And then, like, someone tackled him, and then Kieran Reid was like, well, he jumped into me, and Roman Pott was like, no, he jumped up to catch the ball and you smashed him. It was kind of like a bit of a grey area.
Love that one either,
yeah,
to be honest.
It was kind of a grey area as well, because he kind of like propelled himself forward into the tackle to catch the ball. It was a bit grey area, but I agree with you. Jonathan, any thoughts on it? Yeah, for me, I was just like, that just looks wrong. Like, you don't see it.
No, exactly, yeah. It looks wrong in the sense that I think it feels like a loophole, because it feels like the law is written, as Luke said, with the intention that it means that a winger can dive in the corner with somebody coming across or somebody coming from behind. It's not, or it shouldn't be anyway, written in a way that it allows that, because it looks dangerous. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't pass the eye test, but it's very hard to know in what way that you can tweak the law in order to negate that, because essentially the problem is that it's central and it's head on. But you're going to have an increasing amount of these sorts of incidents, I think, because obviously we're seeing more and more 5 meter tap penalties rather than going to the corner or things like that. So it's very hard to know how you sort of guard against it. I suppose in play, I've seen other people point out that the way to guard against it in play is to have your second tackler stand up. One goes high, one goes low, because we've seen that before. Like, I know we've talked an awful lot about Ireland getting held up over the line in those sorts of instances by having that double tackle.
But Jonathan, if we're trying to get people to kind of go lower, aren't we? Isn't that kind of what the tackle? Like, if we're thinking about where the game is moving,
yeah.
Like that, and like, you know, generally speaking, you're in a race to get lower, to win the collision area, to be in a better position to push someone back. Like, I don't think we want people going the other way. I actually, by the way, completely understand where you're coming from, and I actually get what you're saying, but it feels to me like that's kind of counter.
Can you not just say you can't jump over a tackler to score? Because I don't feel like that negates that doesn't negate what we see in the corner with a winger diving and a winger coming across trying to push them out. I feel like that's not covered by jumping over a tackler to score. That's like kind of jumping, kind of.
It's making a distinction between a dive and a hurdle. I suppose.
I feel like that shouldn't be too difficult.
I think the one saving grace for Sheen maybe is that he didn't do it with his feet first. That was my only thing about it. Like, do you know? So, like, so hurdling is quite different. So that, to my mind, that's kind of jumping. If you think about his body shape, he's leaning forward, but he definitely jumps over to avoid the collision. Like,
oh yeah,
no, he does that. But do you know what I mean?
His swan dive.
But his upper body is leading. If you know what I mean.
He's head first.
Yeah, but I think that's dangerous, and I don't think it's right on a few counts.
I'd love to know. Was this him saying, "I'm going to do this," or were they talking about it and being like, "Okay"?
Yeah, like your man went very low.
Yeah, but did Dan Sheen just say, "Oh, I'm going to dive it now," or were they
like it would just happen?
You get a 5 metre tap penalty.
It's almost like your man's head. So it's terrible technique. It's terrible tackle technique anyway, because your head should still be up even if you're low. His head. I think I don't know who the Australian tackler was, but if you look at it, his head goes completely down, so he never even sees it. So it looks to me like Sheen gets there. The guy's going down to kind of win because he expects him to do a quick, that kind of quick rug. It's almost like a first set, and then the team that plays the quick tap has a kind of a secondary. They either switch sides or they switch a player or they do something kind of. There's almost a set play off that, so they kind of set it up for a quick ruck. Yeah. Looked to me like he was trying to win that space and push that ruck back further, but he forgot to actually look up and tackle the guy.
It's just
that kind of way.
Oh yeah, it's just because like if that's like a foolproof way of scoring from that position, I'm surprised they haven't tried it before that. Unless Sheen just saw the opportunity and went.
I think it looked to me very much like a reactionary thing. It's like he's going in a little bit higher and he realizes, I'm just going to, like, the guys. I think there's a chance to go for it, to jump.
Yeah.
And he's kind of right. So yeah, like it's a weird situation. Yeah. I don't envy the referee having to do it, but my initial reaction, and I still stand over that, I think this is the correct interpretation of it, is that's jumping over a tackle because it's directly in front of you. And I don't think that's right. I don't think you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it should have been disallowed. I agree with the point that I don't think that was in the act of scoring, because I think the jump happens like before. You know what I mean? As in,
yeah, the argument is going to. You can clearly see the argument for the other side of it, but I think it's wrong. I think it feels like a wrong interpretation. You okay with that? What do you think, Jonathan? That
No, I agree. I think it comes down to the definition of when does the act of scoring start, and that does feel like it's premature, because there's still an awful lot to do in scoring if you're having to hurdle a tackle, and maybe that's where it comes in. But I do agree with Will. I think it's amazing that we've not had to have this debate earlier.
Yeah, surprising. No, sorry.
It wasn't mentioned as much either, I didn't think, after the match. Like, because obviously,
it wasn't mentioned that much during the game either, I thought it
was bizarre. I honestly I couldn't believe that. I thought Joe Schmidt would be going berserk over that.
He had enough in his plan.
Yeah, how much time have he got? But I felt like that was that to my mind. I actually we'll get to the other incident.
Oh no, save it.
So yeah, I can't say what I'm going to say now. But I felt like he was that one was not more justified, but it was right there with the other one for me. Yeah.
So.
Anyway.
23-5 then, and the Lions, as you said, the key point of the game for me was that period before half time, because you go from 23-5, you get it back to 23-10. The Lions actually work a try really well for Tom Curry down the short side, and then the Lions are probably thinking, okay, let's just take our medicine, go in at half time, but they get a penalty. Finn Russell with an unbelievable line kick to put that into the 5 metre line, ends with Hugh Jones crashing over. Like, that was a huge 10 minutes in the game. Like, did the Lions impress you there? Was it Australia kind of just playing for half time, Luke? What did you?
Yeah, I thought they looked a little bit spent to me. I think they were looking for half time. I think they were looking to get in the sheds, I think, at that point for that was my feeling. And the Lions, I think Finn Russell's kick really, I think, kind of gave them a jolt of energy. They kind of go, okay, I actually think we've got a chance. What a kick.
What a kick.
And I actually didn't think he had a good first half, by the way. I thought he had a few messy bits in the first half. I think he's getting away. He's been getting away with a little bit in this tour. I don't think he's been actually that great.
Really?
No.
He's had a good tour.
No, he's been okay. I think. Like the tour. Like I don't know what to make of the matches pre-test, but I think he's only been okay. If I'm being honest, I think
He's defended well.
really well.
I think
but he always defends well.
Yeah.
He always defends well. No,
But
he's brave.
It's a Lions test when it's real. Tick action.
Yeah, but I always think that's never an issue of mine with Finn Russell. I love that about him. But I think I think anyone on a rugby pitch should be doing that anyway. So I don't understand someone who doesn't do it, who doesn't put it in for their teammates, who thinks they're above everyone else. I don't get that. That's not in the ethos of the game for me. I'd never pick someone who doesn't do that. That's never my issue with Finn Russell, and I always think he's a brave guy. Puts his body on the line. He's got good technique. He's a good reader of the game in there. He's actually a lovely defender, similar to an Owen Farrell or a Crowley at home. I think Crowley's a really good defender, I just it's an interesting one. I didn't hear because they won. I didn't hear any chat about it, but I thought Finn Russell was messy in the first kind of. He had a few moments where I thought. I didn't think Farrell would make those mistakes. I thought Farrell would have a better sense of the game and wouldn't have. Do you remember when he threw the one to touch it? A few messy kicks, a few messy little bits. He doesn't seem like a guy when the game is kind of going against you. That's kind of calm and that kind of can figure out a percentage play for you. I just never feel that with Finn Russell. I don't think he needs to do it against this Australian team because the Lions are a good bit better, or had been a good bit better anyway.
Even the winning try wasn't the percentage play,
No, I didn't think so either.
The percentage play was to drop in the pocket and drop it
over. Probably, yeah. No, but they did. Oh, look, I was happy that like we gave Ross Byrne a huge amount of stick for that, but and they came up very, very short. Like they came up, like they were a whisker away from it being a brilliant decision. But that's the tightrope you walk as the key decision maker in the team. So Finn Russell's a hero. Ross Byrne, the last couple of occasions got absolutely caned by everyone for not taking on the kick, even though they were held up over the line.
Zalala Tall got sent off.
Yeah, no, that too. Sorry, that too.
No,
but they'd one that was held over. Do you remember they had one that was held up over the line as well? It wasn't all. In the previous year, they had a few that were kind of. People were like, oh, they should have taken the kicks. I think I'm right on that one.
I don't think so.
No,
we don't want to fall out over it.
Yeah, we don't. But I think my point is that's you live and die on those things, And I think, look, I'm glad. He seems like a really good bloke, Finn Russell, but I do think he's still a little loose for my liking. And maybe I'm just used to different towns, or my preferences kind of means elsewhere.
Jonathan, it was such a reversal of fortune in 15 say match minutes. I think it was the 32nd minute mark. It was 23-5. By 47 minutes, it's 23-17. Valentini's gone off at halftime, and Will Skelton's been withdrawn as well. And at that juncture, I thought between the two tries and the two substitutions, I just didn't see Australia holding on. Obviously, it took until the clock was almost in the red before the Lions made that pay. But it was a massive turnaround. Did anything jump out to you in particular in that kind of, Lions getting back into the game period?
Well, just first of all, the kick. I thought the kick was the turning point in the game because it, as much as it has been appreciated, I think it was actually underplayed in the sense that I don't think there was enough made of the difference of the probability of scoring a try from where he got that kick to the average position of where that kick would have been. If you think about, if he had knocked that to the Lions side of the 22, nobody would have batted an eyelid. And think about the probability of scoring a try from there.
And that would have been considered a decent kick as well from where he was, exactly. 5 meters inside his own half.
So
I think Raj mentioned it. I think one of the guys, I was either himself and Bigger, kind of were like really. They know that exactly as you're saying now, Jonathan. They really were like, what? Like that was a brilliant moment.
And it's just such a huge lift to then score the try, to go in at halftime only 23-17 down at that stage. Australia are sort of losing a bit of their punch because they have to make the change at halftime. They probably know that Skelton doesn't have that much after halftime, and then you have the other sort of key moments. You've got the Hugo Keenan moment where he stops the 50-22. Was huge as well during that passage because again, sort of similar to what you're saying, look about Finn Russell. Keenan has not been having the best tour, but the tour will now be remembered for the try. But I think that moment in stopping the 50-22 was a huge part of his game as well during that period.
It's a great point you make, isn't it? it's again the same thing. Not obviously in the decision making kind of position, but it's a kind of live or die type moment. It's tightrope stuff, isn't it? I actually thought he was out of position. I thought he recovered really well actually. To get it back. I thought it was a brilliant piece of skill to stop the 50-22. But I thought initially he was kind of out of position. I was thinking, oh no, because I think he's actually played. He's been sick, like, and I think it's really knocked the stuffing out of him. He doesn't have much weight to lose, I think, Keenan. But he's a super fit guy anyway. But he looks like, he just looked a little out of sorts until I thought the two test matches. I think he looked really good in the two test matches. I thought didn't get much praise actually after test one, but I thought his positioning was brilliant. I thought he was really, really solid. And I think he was really good on the weekend for a vast majority of the game. I thought he was really solid back there, and he had some lovely touches. His ball handling, guys, is beautiful. Like when he's playing well and he's able to release the wingers, it doesn't look flashy, but they're hard skills to execute under pressure, and I think he does that really, really well. So I think he's actually been playing really well, and I think he's kicked really solidly as well. I think he probably has struggled a little bit under the new rules, but so has everyone in terms of the competition in the air. I don't know. I'm still not 100% sure I love that new rule, if I'm being completely honest. But it certainly has made it more of a competition, no doubt. But I don't know if that's better or worse, to be honest.
He also took the try very well. It wasn't. It wasn't easy. Like, you see it. He gets the ball near the line, but he actually had to do a lot.
It's the paddle before whale. You see the little paddle of the feet. It just sticks. I think it's Ikitau's. He's in front of him, and it's just all it does is it just gives him an opportunity to go either side.
Yeah.
And I do think that if I was Ikitau, I'd be thinking, like, I wouldn't have. He like, when someone does that, you got to keep coming forward. He sticks on it. He takes a moment to go, what's happening here, and then it's all over. Whereas, what you really need to be doing there, if you're a young player, you make him. You don't even give him the option to paddle and give him both and have options to go either side of you, because it sticks you. You have to stick. You need to give him one option, so either stay hard on his inside and force him to the outside, and you just get to, you get to run basically faster than him because he's got the ball, and you should be able to run him down. Or you come from the outside, which is traditionally what lots of people do closer to the line, which pushes them back in the field and forces them to make a pressure pass, which you coming up on the outside into that space to kind of block Hugo's passing channel. I didn't think he defended that very well, if I'm being completely honest. But I did think Hugo recognised the opportunity, recognised what it was, backed himself, kept it simple, and the little paddle before to stick Ikitau is brilliant, recognising that he's not in a great position to defend him. All he needs to do is hold him up for half a second, which is what he does, and then he takes it really, really well. And couldn't happen to a better bloke. You could see, like, he's obviously super popular. You can tell he is popular in any team he's in, but it's good to see, a guy who got off to a slower start in the tour because he was kind of sick. Good to see that he's kind of recognised for, I think, what a good guy he is and what a hard worker he is. And I'm not surprised that a guy who works that hard, who's that fit, has the key play at the very end of a very grueling test match. It's no surprise. I always like to see, it feels to me like a lot of hard work rewarded for a guy who's obviously a super trainer, because doesn't he have one of the records?
The
Bronco record with Bowden Barrett or something, doesn't he? So, and if you think about Bowden Barrett, even, he's always the guy who has that last play and the long, whether it's a 4 or 5 minute, part in a game that everyone's exhausted, it's always Bowden Barrett has the key moment, or the end of the game, Bowden Barrett makes the key pass or the key tackle. Nice to see Keenan have kind of the similar kind of impact at the crucial juncture.
When Tom Curry made that tackle, you must have been thinking Jamie Heaslip and Murrayfield on Stuart Hall. That's what I honestly...
Jamie Heaslip was way better than that.
Well, it was on the try line, obviously. So
Jamie Heaslip was over the try line. That was one of the best. Jamie was watching the game with me.
Oh, really?
He came in, yeah.
With a bunch of nobody.
No, I was. He came in at the end. We were chatting. I actually can't remember.
All you guys just hang out in Riverview hoping to be recognised.
The kids are up there, but it was funny. You just jerked my memory in there. It was... yeah, we were having a little bit of a chat about it, all right. But
it was a key moment.
Massive moment.
26-17 at that stage.
My initial, when he goes, I can't remember who makes the break for Australia. I think it was the 7, wasn't it?
Yeah, McWright.
McWright, yeah. He, I didn't think he should have gone in field.
McWright was McWrong.
He was McWrong. I thought he should have gone deeper in. So what I felt like that did was, when he goes cross field, and the idea is that, yes, okay, he's found a back in open space, but to my mind, I would have gone deeper. I would have penetrated deeper into the Lions' half. He had enough opportunity. He would have got caught.
Bit of a hospital pass, like.
Yeah, well, your man never sees it. Yeah. It's like a back would never throw that pass, really. Like, it'd be unusual you wouldn't throw that one, because you could kind of see Curry coming in, and he's going to get hit kind of man and ball as he's receiving it. So I think it's Suaalii, he maybe drops it. He has no chance. He never sees him. It's a brilliant piece of play by Curry. Again, a guy who seems to be very popular, who is a super player, hadn't been playing unbelievably well, but gets the nod. But you can see, he's a worker. He works early for that one. As soon as there's a break, did you see him in the backfield? He starts pumping the legs. And that's always a sign of a good player. It's the Joe Schmidt thing was always, what was it? It was working harder earlier was the big thing. So whether that's getting a position earlier, it gives you a huge advantage. But it felt like it was that kind of moment for a player. Some players would go, they're miles out of camera. So the guy makes the break. It's got to be 40 metres away from Curry, from where Curry is. He has a decision. He can cruise back. He's not going to be in camera. No one will probably know. Maybe an unbelievable coach like Joe Schmidt would probably pick it up, or maybe Andy Farrell might, but none of us would. But you could see when you go to the camera, he's pumping straight away. Because there might not be an opportunity for him to make an impact on the play, but he takes the chance that he might be able to, and it's good to see that rewarded, Will. And
it was rewarded in the first test. He stole that line out, offloaded to Finn Russell, beat it up the field, got the scoring pass. No, he gave the scoring pass to Sheen in the corner.
But I thought that was more a skill than a work thing. That was two more beautiful.
He was also quick to make it up the pitch.
No, he's obviously a quick thinker. Yeah. But for a guy who'd be super tired, that guy is at every ruck, annoying people. He's tackling because he's wrestling with big guys, small guys, fast. Because he's the back row. Your back rowers are in the action in every facet of the game. Which they have a running commitment, but they also have a wrestling commitment, which makes it really tough. So to see him, I think it shows you how good he is, Will, that he was able to do that lovely deft little, he just straightens the line lovely before that little pass to Sheen in test one. But that other piece of play where he starts his run early back, when he knows there's a chance he might not be able to make an impact on the play, might be too far away, it's a sign of a good bloke. They're the guys you want in your team, and that's why Farrell is such a good selection.
They talk about vindication, he scored a try in both tests. The tackle we mentioned, the mention there of the assist to Sheehan, and obviously Ty Byrne, the other contentious one, had another really good game, and obviously I think was man to match him in the first test. One of the key moment I thought, you remember Jamison Gibson Park covered off that grubber kick, near the touchline in the 22, but Tom Wright had sold Ty Byrne on a dummy.
He could have gone himself.
That's a try. That's a try. It'd be a 2-on-1. Ty Byrne, they mentioned on commentary, I'd say it was like thank.
Your man Wright is a lovely player.
Yeah, he's class.
He is class. What did you think of him, Jonathan? Did you like him? I was really impressed. I know. We know a little bit about him, but
didn't get a huge amount of ball either.
But he had that 50-22. Do you remember he kind of took that chance because that was quite a good attacking opportunity, I think. But he decides to kick it rather than pass it, and I'm sure there were some people going, "What are you doing?" Because he kicks it into the 22, but he finds grass and finds a 50-22. I thought he had some lovely moments, and that was a lovely try scored as well. I know it was some pretty poor defence from the Lions, but what did you make of his impact, John? I thought he was a key player.
Yeah, I think he was really good. I think again it just speaks to what you were saying earlier about the impact of having those power athletes being able to create the space for everybody else. Because it's funny how the narrative can shift week to week, whereas now you can sort of see the bones of that Australia team if they can play like that more regularly. And it seems like we're already moving on. The World Cup 2027 ticketing launch was today, so people are already starting to look forward.
Will's gutted here. He didn't know.
I did.
Did you know?
Australia's too far.
You're obviously payday must be in a few days. That's what it is, Jonathan. Yeah.
I think it was details of the travel packages rather than go on sale, so there's still time yet. But I think it is important, obviously, like you touched on earlier, for Australia to have a core to build around towards that World Cup and to build a team around to be back on home soil in really just 2 years now. So I think it's massive for Australian rugby to see players like that performing against a team like the Lions, even in defeat. I think
he's quality. I wish he got a little more time on the ball. Just hasn't really gone that way for him so far, but we saw
it just felt like he needed a mention. I thought he was brilliant. He was actually quite good in test one.
The ironic thing is he loves catching the ball from deep and throwing that dummy and just scorching through for the Brumbies. He does it all the time. He does it for Australia a fair amount as well. I'm pretty sure it was the Stade de France, was it 2 years ago? He was involved in
he mustn't have felt it. He mustn't have felt that Byrne was completely done.
Yeah,
because when you have it in two hands, my feeling always is that you kind of nearly are thinking, if I had it in one hand here earlier, I've kind of made the decision. But he has to sell the outside. I think it was Kinghorn was on the pitch at that point. Maybe was he? Can't remember who was on the pitch at that stage. Who was outside Byrne. I think it was Kinghorn. I was surprised because Kinghorn clearly, it looks to me like he's gone early. Like he's shown that he has his man. He's left Byrne. I thought he left Byrne a little bit. Like for a winger, if it was me, I'd be disappointed with that, because knowing Byrne has been on the pitch, knowing he's playing, he's coming up against Wright. I thought it was quite poor D. Now Kinghorn has obviously played most of his rugby at fullback, to be honest with you, but I would have been disappointed with that, because he shows the back. So he must have felt Byrne was still there, which is why he didn't throw the dummy, But yeah, no, it was
key moment maybe.
It was a key moment, I thought. Yeah, and Australia did have their moments.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they were very good.
I can't believe we've waited 40 minutes now for the big clear out. We were very.
Who's going first, Jonathan?
Very reserved and demure of us to wait this long. Most podcasts, I think, probably got into it after 30 seconds. Jonathan, I go to you first. So obviously, Joe Schmidt has been quoting Law 920 at length in his press conferences. That you can't hit above the shoulder line, and he's saying that Jack Morgan did by his reckoning. He even mentioned today, I saw people criticising Carlo Tizzano for diving, and he's saying, well, his mouth guard registered double the kind of high magnitude impact. So he was claiming that there was no dive, but we can get into that too. Ultimately should that try have been disallowed, do you think?
I don't think so. I think again it comes back to, we're talking about interpretations of the law and the spirit in which the law is written. So the spirit in which the law is written, to me, saying about tackling above the shoulder line, does not take into consideration the fact that somebody's head might be below their shoulder.
Below their knees.
Yeah, so like he's hinged to a point where his shoulder line is, like down around his ankle. So the law isn't written with that as the intent. There's probably an argument about that body shape creeping into breakdowns with more regularity, and how much you're actually supporting your own body weight in that instance. I think if you look at the arms are out, which means there is an attempt to wrap, I can see the argument that he didn't actually get them around to fully wrap, and I think that was maybe.
Can I ask you, are you talking about Jack Morgan now? Or are you?
Yeah,
you're talking about Jack Morgan. Now. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah.
Like Morgan's arms are out to wrap. I think that you could have made an argument that he didn't get them round to wrap. I thought there could have been more made of that rather than the point of contact. But I think, to me, if you're looking at the speed in which the incident occurs and how low Morgan is, regardless of where the point of contact is, I don't think it's a penalty.
I'm just looking at my shoulder line here. That's what I was doing. Look, if you were looking at me.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying, it's funny, I'll get your opinion in a second, because like Joe's saying that, look, the law is clear, you can't hit above the shoulder line. Like from the replays I've seen, I wouldn't say it's clear that he hits him above the shoulder line on the neck. It's definitely... There's definitely, he could, I could see, I wouldn't say it's definitive that he 100% hits him on the neck from the replays I've seen. Like, that might make me a homer or whatever, but I'm just telling you, the replay I've looked at, I agree with Jonathan. He kind of attempts to wrap, quote unquote, doesn't really fully wrap, but the intention is what the referee mentioned. I think, do I think it was an illegal clear out? Possibly. Do I think it definitely was a legal clear out? I don't, from what I've seen. Like, they're just looking at that replay. I don't think it's 100% definitive that he hits him on the neck personally. I don't know what you think in any of the facets of it being illegal, whatever.
Okay, so this kind of, my take on it is this. I think if you look back at lots of rucks in rugby, if you looked at every ruck nearly in the game where it's competitive, I think you will find these similar issues cropping up a lot, particularly around how the players are falling in. So, like, my thing was that I didn't like where the collision happened, but what I didn't like more was that it felt to me like Morgan he missed. So, first of all, he's not there at the same time. That's wrong. And I think that he doesn't look as in control of his feet as the Australian player that he hits. And I think they're two kind of key components. Now, the argument people are going to make is that if you go to every ruck around the pitch and you slow-mo it, you're going to find these collisions, and like it'll be a mess, right? But the issue is they're not going to do that for every ruck. They did it for this one. I thought it was the collision happened in the wrong area, and I didn't think he looked in control of his body weight. And the crucial aspect for me was that part, is that he wasn't in control. He falls over pretty much straight away, and I think people are asking, well, how does he clear him out? Like, to my mind, he's got to try and find a route to get an arm in, like so. the Australian player is, people probably can't see me here, but if I was thinking about how I'm approaching these collisions and how I approach them as a player, I was trying to get as low as possible, but I tried to hook an arm. I used to always try and hook an arm and drive through that point. The key, like what you don't want to be doing, the key thing Joe would always say is that be there first. Like, that's the key part. He was there second, so that can happen in the game. So it's not Morgan's fault or anything like that. And I can see how he ends up in a situation where, you know, he gets away from his feet. I think he gets away from his feet too. So I think there's two parts of the collision that I don't love, and I do think, if you ask me honestly, you know, leaving the bias that I would have towards the Lions aside, I think that was a penalty. And I think to my mind, it's not a yellow card, which I think what lots of people are kind of moving towards if the collision happens there. I don't think there's not a nasty part of the collision, right? But he's out of control there, to my mind, and he's lost it. He's second in there. If he was in better control of it and he hits him there, I'd probably have more sympathy for him. But I think it's a yellow. If you look at it, if you decide to look at it, I think it's a penalty for the Australians.
I think the point you raised there is a good one, because you hear people asking, well, how is he meant to clear Tiziano out there if not what he does? But the point you raise, he was beaten to the breakdown. So he doesn't need to necessarily clear him out. He's lost that breakdown in effect by being late. Yeah. So like that's the answer to the question for me. How's he meant to clear him out? Well, he was beaten to the breakdown. It was a turnover.
Yeah, that's well, unless
that would be my answer to that question.
You do have a grace for that. You have a slight grace. It's not like if you touch the ball, it's not a turnover.
No, I know.
You have to have a little bit of a hold on it. I thought he had enough time to fix that slightly, but what I used to do as a player. Now I'm like not a, you know, I think I was pretty good at this facet, actually, to be honest with you, but nothing like a Jack Morgan or one of these guys, right? But if I was thinking about it technically, how I would do it is I would go to release one arm from the ball, because, you know, if you're able to do that, whether it's with the inside arm or the outside arm, I'd try wrestle one arm out and push through and push him back, because they're not in a good position to push there, but they're in a good position to hang on. If you can release one of the arms from the ball or from, well, when I was playing it was on the ground, you know, they weren't as harsh on that rule, but if you could get one arm up, and if you think about it as well, the Lions, I don't know who else is in the ruck, because obviously we've only talked about Morgan, that's all we were looking at, but there was another Lions player that's in Morgan's inside, I think, that like if you get the kind of can opener effect, if you pop him up one of his arms, the two of you will be able to force him back out, if you know what I mean. So that like, all you needed to do is kind of hold him above the ball where it wasn't a clear turnover. You'd probably get some support behind you to drive him through, or do it yourself, you know, if you're in a good body position. So that's how I would think about that, Will.
Yeah.
And I thought the key part was that he was second to it. And I didn't love where the collision happened. It's not a good look, really.
Jonathan, another element to it that you can't quantify how much this might have played into PRD and the officials' decision-making process, if it did at all, but it's undoubted that he dives, that he clutches his head and is trying to pretend that he got hit in the head, because obviously that would be an even serious level of danger. So I human nature, you're looking at this replay as a team of officials. You're seeing that there is no head contact clearly. Does that make them think less of the incident as a whole? Does that make them think, well, look, he's clearly trying to bite his penalty? Sorry, I'm paraphrasing and projecting into people's minds there, but like, they're kind of saying, look, he was milking it, trying to get a head contact penalty. It wasn't a head contact penalty. I'm just looking at it here. It's 50-50. They think they arrive at the same time. It's a tough clear out, but there's no head contact. Look, that's play on. Like, I wonder if there's an element of that in any decision making that went on.
Yeah, I think there's a real chance that there might be, because again, we have to think about the pressure that the referees are under, and we have to think about the weight of that decision in the moment. And if they're judging, I suppose, on that instinct of watching somebody, because they're looking where the point of contact is, they can see that the point of contact isn't on the head, and then they're seeing somebody fall back clutching their head, and they don't want to be, I suppose, conned, essentially, and that would make them think that there is a possibility that that's what's happening. Now, I know that Joe Schmidt came out today and spoke about the force that was triggered by the hit in the mouthguard, and his justification being that that amount of force would make you jolt backwards, regardless of talking about whether he's holding putting his hand to the point of contact or not. But they were saying that it was a force that would knock you back on your heels and have you tumbling over. But I do think that does play into the decision. Actually, I think it's really interesting what Luke was saying there, because I would have been of the opinion of thinking that Tiziano was so low and it got his head so low that it was impossible to clear him out in any other way. And I would have been of the camp where I was thinking, well, what are you meant to do? But I hadn't really sort of looked at it from the perspective of the looks given there. Well, you're beaten to the breakdown. So it's either you give away a penalty or you just accept that. So I think it's an interesting way to look at it, not one that I think a lot of people have been. So he's
I do
caused me to sort of rethink there a wee bit.
I think it's not that it's a rethink. Like, so not that it's as black and white as that, Jonathan. It's a key point, right? But you still have the other point I made alongside that was that you have a grace period. You have like a second or so, like, so he's a half a second late. I think he's a half a second to, I think, release one of the arms. And then it doesn't look like if you release one of the arms, they're kind of off balance. If you're still able to get a drive onto the person, that doesn't look as clear a penalty to me. And remember, the guy on the floor. So if the person who's poaching has one arm on it now rather than two, I think it doesn't look as clear cut to the referee. And remember, the person on the ground is still allowed to hold the ball there. So it looks to me like someone's grabbing for it, but they haven't got it. Whereas if they got two hands on it, you're going, okay, well, look, that's a pen. He's got that. The guy on the ground is preventing the player who's in a good position, who's two hands on the ball, who's on his feet, from getting the ball back on his side. Where if he is one, I think the picture's different. I don't think it's as grey as saying, well, he's there first and it's over. But it gives you a grace if you can release one of the arms, and that's how I would approach it. But that's not to say I'm correct. Like, the ruck is so complex.
I think I think you're giving me a lot of food for thought, but it's also kind of reinforcing my notion that I don't think it's clear cut. Like, I'm skeptical of anyone saying this is 100% a penalty or 100% not a penalty, because I feel like there's a lot of ways of looking at it, and we've outlined a few different strands there. Like Morgan Turanui, the former Wallaby, people probably have seen this clip on the Australian coverage, just saying, like, this is a disgrace. It was 100% a penalty. It's a disaster. Phil Walsh should be demanding a meeting with Joel Judge, who's only over here in a junket.
Well, it's funny because that's not what I wanted to get out of this.
No, I'm not saying that's what you're saying.
I'm actually quite clear that it's a penalty.
Okay, you think it's a definite penalty?
Well, for two reasons. Okay. I think he doesn't do what I've outlined he should do. He's second there. Sorry, for three reasons. He's second there. So your man is in a good position to get the ball. Now, some people have said something about the entry, but I think that's being really nitpicky. I think his entry's fine.
So do I.
I think he has two hands on the ball. He's there first. I think where the collision happens is not a good place to happen. I think he should be going for an arm and trying to get lower. And I think he's out of control coming in there. He doesn't have the same control of his feet. If you think about it, he hits him, he goes straight to deck.
But so which part are you penalising him for then?
I'm penalising for where the collision happens, and I think he's out of control in there. So I think
what's the offence you're penalising for, like?
For where the collision happens, and I think that if you go back,
so you're saying he hits him.
I think he hits him in the back. You're not allowed to do that. I don't think. In my opinion, you're not allowed to do that.
Okay.
So I think what I think he should. I'm giving you what I think should happen in the collision and how he can fix it, because that seems to be the big argument that lots of people have is, well, where does he hit him? And it's like, well, I think this is where he should hit him. That's why I'm outlining that. I've told you why I think he's second there. I think he's not in control of his feet, and I think he hits him in the wrong place. And
but only the
last two. I think he goes off his feet pretty much straight away, and I think he's hitting kind of down on him. Okay. He's out of control. So I think it's a penalty.
Yeah,
and I don't think there's a nastiness in it, but he doesn't hit him in the right place either.
And look, you've made a very cogent and convincing argument that, I don't disagree with you either.
I'm not trying to look. I'm not. People go, it's not sour grapes. It's not. I obviously want the Lions to win, so I'm delighted with the Lions.
All we're doing is watching an incident and giving our opinion. Like, I don't think anyone.
I know, but I feel like there'll be I have Sexton and these. I have friends in the tour. So I don't want to be I'm not taking anything away from it, but I do think those two things were very weird. I thought the Sheen one, I was like, what am I watching? Do I not understand the rules? And then the last one, I did feel like once they go back, it's a penalty. Like, it is a penalty, in my opinion.
Yeah. Anything to wrap up on that one, Jonathan? There's a few other things I want to get to, but we don't have that much time left. But if there's anything else you want to add on this controversy?
I mean, I think it shows the complexity of it all. If you've got somebody that has played professional rugby, has played for the Lions, who's watching a test match thinking, I don't understand the rules. I think it shows the complexity. I think that shows how difficult it is for the referees. And I think one part as well that maybe the Australian argument has overlooked is the fact that it would have been so much easier to give the penalty. The easiest thing in the world would be to give the penalty to the defending team, to give the penalty to the team that is 1-0 down in a series, and to give the penalty to the team that has the lead. And to give the penalty to the team that is home. It would have been so much easier in so many different ways to give the penalty. And I think
the play acting really didn't help.
Yeah, I agree. I think it really
I know Joe says it wasn't, but he was grabbing his head, like he was, and he flaying. Like if he had gone back and if it had been a better dive, if he had grabbed his neck, if he had grabbed his neck and stayed in the ground, I think people would have been like, okay, that's wrong. It's the collision's happened in the wrong place. Whereas he's fine because he's done this in the head. You're going to go. And that is something we don't want creeping in, because you do want to highlight an issue, but the issue had been highlighted. I thought Jonathan's point on that was really good, because that was how I felt as well when I watched it. I go, oh, buddy, like, come on, like. But maybe they wouldn't have gone back.
I also the point about Jonathan about not giving the penalty, like, so that means Andrea Piardi can't go back to La Rochelle. And he can't go to Australia ever again. That's 2 places. That's twice this season with baying mobs of crowds, to be fair, whether you agree to it or not.
Munster was
Munster La Rochelle, and that was a definite penalty, I thought. So he was like, whatever this one. So yeah, like to be fair, he doesn't mind going to an away venue and just completely like just going against the home crowd. Okay, a few quick things to spin through. Have your James Ryan moment here. Like, he came off the bench, he was melting people. There was 2 tackles in a row just before Australia threw a forward pass that he absolutely emptied 2 lads.
I think he would have been perfect to start the test.
He just didn't have the form to start the test.
No, he probably didn't. Yeah. He was a guy who came in with an injury as well, and I think that really scuppered his chances. But I think he would have been the perfect partner for Itoje or Byrne. I think that for Ireland too, and I think that for Leinster. I think, generally speaking, the proof is in the pudding in that one. Like, when he plays, whichever team he plays in, he's better, and he's proven. Like, you think about the La Rochelle Viva match. Yeah, that's the best 25 minutes I've nearly seen of any. I was
going to say, we were having a chat about it in a WhatsApp group, and someone said, "Oh, World Cup quarterfinals," and I said, "Well, he didn't actually play against the All Blacks in Paris. He wasn't available. He didn't play against Northampton."
I'm more and more convinced of this.
He was on the bench against Toulouse, and he was dominating Skelton in the Viva until he got injured. So people, like, it's funny when you outline these things.
I had other people. I've obviously like I didn't realize how much of a broken record I am, because I have people onto me on LinkedIn. And people
LinkedIn.
I swear to God, someone goes,
"Nice to connect."
You were right. Yeah, nice to connect. Yeah. But it was. But it was kudos to you.
But it was an important day for him, I suppose.
I was really delighted for him. I thought he was brilliant. Yeah, I thought himself and Genge. Like, the argument then is like, well, the Lions didn't look as, not that they weren't toothless, far from toothless, right? But the argument is whether, if we come back to this is the conversation I literally have with this guy on LinkedIn. I was like, well, like he said, brilliant coaching or brilliant, brilliant selection
of them on the bench,
to have them on the bench. But I went back to the other thing and I went back to my South Africa argument going, well, why not have your best guys start in the game and give them more of the game? Like, would the Lions have had a better first period if they had these kind of more powerful players kind of playing, like with your collisions from Ryan, your collisions at ruck and tackle with Ryan, your carrying with Genge around the pitch? Would they have been as far behind at the start of the game?
I don't think so.
I don't know. I don't know if they would have been. Like, as it turns out, this, as I finished up, I'm literally recounting my LinkedIn chat here. But what I said was, like, he ends up being a genius because they win the game.
Yeah.
But they've won it in the last play, and I think they're quite a bit better than this Australian team, even with those big impact players that the Australians brought in. My question is, did those two, did that little bit of tinkering with Genge, did that really help?
Genge should have started on form. Better.
He's on
better
fire.
than Porter. Porter's an unbelievable player, but
Porter's unbelievable.
Genge just had a better door, and I think it proved when he came on. He was
dynamite when he came on. Yeah, I thought Genge was unbelievable. Like, he's had a brilliant tour, because I still thought, I was surprised at how early on in the tour that he was like nailed on, because I just think Porter's unbelievable, but I do think he's come into it. His form of the period was better, and I just don't get why. I think Farrell and I think Leinster maybe undervalue how good Ryan is. I really believe that. I know you believe it. You don't. I think he's unbelievable. I think he's a brilliant player. I think people maybe, because you don't see. Remember when he came on the scene, you had these kind of few eye-catching moments where there's some ball handling. He's making a few breaks.
Him and Levy had it like that.
Do you remember the
1-2
against Saracens, the one off the breakdown? Yeah. And he had 1 or 2 with them with Gibson Park over that period as well. I think people really, they're not watching the right stuff sometimes. I player cam them a little bit sometimes because they go, am I actually just biased here? What's going on here? Every impact, like, it's a bit like the Curry thing. Yeah, it's every impact is like to the death. And he went through a period where he was giving away a lot of pens, but Itoje's done that. Byrne's done that at different periods. Sometimes you got to ride, you got to play on the edge a little bit with these guys. But I just think he is far and above Byrne is definitely our best second row, if one of the best in the world. He's an incredible player. But Ryan is right there with him, and he's kind of a different player to him. And I just think they're a perfect match. And I think in Leinster himself, and it should be Ryan and other for me.
Yeah, no, to be fair, you've said that for a while. I
Yeah.
think everyone, to be fair, would have watched Saturday and been like, we can see what you're talking
You text me straight away going, Ryan. Or it was a
I
tweet,
tagged
it was a
you
tweet,
with the
tagged
eyes
me.
emoji.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Few players I just want to spin through before we finish up. Jack Conan, 24 tackles at the weekend, the most in Alliance Test since 2001, I think. Or in the
He's
last
been unbelievable.
20 years.
Quietly, really.
Yeah, quietly is a good point because like we're so used to watching him with these big eye-catching moments, but to that point in the first test, those kind of punishing carries, softening up the defence. Obviously, had a nice assist for the Curry try as well.
Yeah,
I think
lovely assist. That was lovely.
Yeah,
over the top.
lovely
really
assist,
nice, yeah.
and then just like a real physical performance this weekend, making a lot of tackles. Not usually his game. I think it's the first time he's made over 20 tackles in an international match, so he got 25. So that was
He's always been a brilliant tackler, though. If you look at his technique, he's really impactful in there. He must have. I think he's got, because sometimes I feel with him, his feet can be quite far away, but he's so powerful and he's got great grip. It's very rare he misses a tackle, and when he does hit you, generally for a smaller guy, right? Now he's a huge man. Massive bench presser as well. I think he's a really super powerful guy. But generally for a smaller guy, if I was teaching someone about, contact area, feet close to the contact zone, it's absolutely, the closer your feet are, the closer you can distribute the power to make an impact. But he is one of these big guys that doesn't necessarily have to have that, because he must be quite a heavy guy. Obviously, as I said, great grip strength, because that's always a risk when your feet are a little far away from a tackle sometimes, is that, the weight can go against you, but he's heavy enough that he never misses them. And I think he's brilliant defensively, I thought. He looked like a leader, I thought. He looked like a guy. So I talked about Finn Russell earlier on, sometimes in a, kind of shaky moments where the game is maybe going against you. Sometimes he makes a decision that I'm like, I don't think the best of the best really make that one there. They're kind of a bit steadier. I thought Conan looked like a steady Eddie in a big way, and like a really accurate, really impactful at the right moments. Some nice moments when it came to him, like he let the game come to him. The moment with Curry is to my mind, it's a pure, he didn't force it, but the moment came and he knew what to do and executed, where he wasn't forcing these kind of skills where he's getting out the back, or
he did force one in the first test.
He did maybe one of the first tests, but overall, I think over the course of the tour, because if you think he had some he didn't really have great competition, but Earl I thought kind of emerged at different points and is so athletic and he's so powerful, and he made some really eye-catching runs with ball in hand, and I thought, well, maybe they'll go with him because he's just got that power and that he's exciting and he's got that footwork, and obviously Pollock has that too, but they went with the steadier guy, and I think it was the right call. I do think it was the right call.
Started 5 Lions tests in a row as well, which is mad.
Well, it's a testament to him. I think it's because
and the
he's a
Leinster
great
bench,
player.
Leinster bench is where he's kept you.
I know, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah. It's you look Doris. I'm sure poor Doris watching that at home. Like, that must be an absolute gutter. But I do think it's been very close with those two for a while, and Doris was probably nipped it because maybe he's a bit more eye-catching going forward, I think. But I do think Conan is. He was brilliant. He was one of Ireland's best players in the Six Nations. He was the key guy, I thought, when he came on against England at home. I thought he turned the game.
Very good against Scotland off the bench.
Brilliant against Scotland as well. So he's an important player for Ireland and Leinster. But maybe sometimes doesn't get on the park to start the game because just unbelievable competition.
I had a few other players listed, but I remembered now that there's actually a third test still to play. So we can, I can,
it does feel like a bit of
I can touch on these guys. We have one last show next week, so I can save the rest of them for then. Jonathan, any last thoughts on the second test you want to say before we finish up?
I think it's really interesting that the death of the drop goal, that it wasn't even a consideration. Like, nobody talks about it because they scored the try, but was nobody? I know obviously Rog was watching it thinking it was insane, but was nobody else watching it thinking
he was calling it for ages, John, wasn't he? Yeah, he was a drop goal. Like he completely forgot he was a commentator. I thought,
you could almost picture him just going apoplectic that nobody was dropping into the pocket. But like, if they hadn't scored that try, like, forget about the clear out, forget about everything else we've been talking about. That's what we would have been talking about. The fact that the Lions had 2 10s on the pitch and neither one of them dropped in the pocket for a drop goal.
Tyrone Farrell was definitely just going to get in the pocket and drop it.
Yeah,
like, it was they were on the.
I think there was blood in the water. I feel like, sorry, I hate, everyone's going to hate that I do this, but going back to I think they felt that there was blood in the water, Leinster, and I think that they went for it, they backed themselves.
There was. I saw too much blood in the water, and it's like I'm going for the kill.
Shark into it,
exactly.
But yeah, I think they felt like the blood was in the water and they backed themselves, and it's good to see a team sometimes, get the result that way, But yeah, it does. I agree with you. Like two top quality tens, like not two average guys.
I'm glad Farrell didn't get the job.
Oh, really? Are you? God, I absolutely love Farrell.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, there's a big wink.
No, I actually do like him. I actually do like him.
He's one of my favourite players.
I'm only joking.
He's played well on tour.
He was good.
Yeah, doesn't he?
Fair, he was good off the bench. To be fair, I wouldn't deny that. He actually did add a little bit when he came on. We might leave it there, guys. We've gone over the hour mark. There's so much to talk about, so I think people will forgive us. And we have one more test next week to see if the Lions can make it 3 out of 3. Until then, Luke, Jonathan, thanks so much for joining me, and thanks so much for listening. Goodbye.